Okay, so here we are. We've got our character set up on one thing. Press, what is it, Shift O to make a new backdrop for them and get this thing organized. It's the character. I like blue. Well, anyway, doesn't matter. We're going to start making an animation test for this character. Now, the main thing you have to understand is that this can be done multiple ways. This is the procedural anatomy way, but essentially we're just looking for a bunch of different kind of frame ranges, settings, and that's kind of what you need. It can be done by hacking into bits, doing your own thing, or for the most part, automatic with the setup. But we'll start with putting down a procedural anatomy. Let's just go over here, animation, import node. And what we're going to do is this is going to say 0 with the char index in here, the local variable, and the anim index, and you're not going to be able to see anything for a little while. But we're going to go take our character file and we'll call it, what is it? We can even just, copy parameter if it's in the same and paste relative reference here. So you'll get the whole file folder location for this. And actually you could just copy this as well too and just paste that in there instead if you want. And it should be, I don't know why it's asking for an FBX, but there we go. We have very adequately named files, so don't mix them up. There we go, and give it a name. So we've got our Mr. Big Man character, and we're gonna make our animation as well too. So we're gonna choose our animation from our, we're gonna go hip, and then mocap. You'll see AS Santi Lunch. And I'm just going to copy that in here. And instead of using a frame to set our start point, we're going to use or set our T-pose. For this, we're going to use the rest that we created. And if you want to see any of these, put down in the FBX animation import, you can just copy this file over and see like, okay, this is the rest pose and no animation. Here's our animation. And yeah. So I know for a fact that this, we do have a custom mapping set up. A mapping is how our character's skeleton, our renderable character skeleton that we're working with, maps to our animation, right? So this mapping parameter, it's right here, and this one's for Unreal. There's possibilities that this could not work, especially if you have namespaces on your skeleton names. So you will want to check that. Like for instance, if you have a name visualizer, and maybe I'll show you how to create one right now. Actually, we can just create a marker. We'll bring up this window, and you type in the word name in here as a parameter, and it'll start showing up. Just give it a proper label, and I think that one's supposed to be lowercase, but oh yeah, see, so I've got two of them now. Doesn't matter, but you can choose guide sizes, things like that, if it's too small. And you can see that there's no namespaces on here. It's not something semicolon lower arm underscore L. It's just lower arm underscore L. So if you have problems with the mapping and it's Unreal, take a look at what the names are, because it's not going to handle namespaces for you. Anyway, and I'm just going to turn the visualizer off because I don't need it anymore. And the next thing we're going to do here is, so I deleted the expressions on animation start and end. I left the one on T-pose start. You could delete that actually as well too. Basically, we just need to set our frame range. And I this is my preference. I know that the animation is longer than 150 frames, but I just always want to start with 1001. Um, Basically, so you can have 4 digits of frame number. Uh, that's just always been super helpful in doing animations that, yeah, take, if it's going to take 5,000 frames, then you already have, you know, frame 1,000 to 6,000 or however you want to count it. You have 4 digits of numbers. So when you're looking at them in the file directory or with any other things, basically there's no chance of frame 900 that only has 3 digits um, coming after frame 8,000, right? So just because the way file systems look at things, it looks at it that there's a 9 to start with. Anyway, not going down a complex rabbit hole. We're going to start out by doing the, um, let's do the rig match pose. Now, we're just taking the same things in here that Houdini wants. There's rest transform, target skeleton, and turn off enable match bounds. That is right now not going to work because we have to set up the whole thing first. So yeah, I guess you can leave that on. Never mind me. The real reason this is just showing it all at the origin right here, like all the points have been moved to the origin, is because we don't have our character visible or our animation visible yet. If you want to do that, you can delete these by pressing Control Shift and clicking on it, and then setting it to 1, and you'll see this show up. And same thing here. And this is just to start with, just so we can see everything working. And then we're going to do what is it? We'll do, click here, right tab, like right click. No, it's tab. Match pose. Let's see that one here. It's giving you an error. I'm not sure why, but we'll get to that. Just turn all those off. It doesn't matter. And in fact, it's a good idea to go back and look at the template, match pose. Oh, and you know what it is? Possibly. I know you need. Do you need a null there? I can't remember. It's just handy to see it. But anyway. And then full body IK. Yeah, it's probably the mapping hasn't been correctly set. But we'll come back to that. We'll do a procedural anatomy, animation, scale solve. Just get everything set up so we can do a output and procedural anatomy and an export and bring that back down here. Now, let's check for the mapping attribute on our character. So target skeleton, we want to be here, name, and there's no mapping attribute. Now, why would that be? Am I crazy? No, it is there. It's deleting it on this one. And oh, I'm going to set these to custom frame on the rig match pose instead of that. So 970 is our match to T-pose start. T-pose and soon come rest pose. There we go. Yes. So go back to the frame 970. Our poses now match mostly automatically. Yeah, sometimes the blend clavicle. Full body IK. Oh yes, and then we need to set the full body IK as well too. We're not going to use the rest pose. We're going to use the start frame, and then our skeletons should be matching and animated. So let's review. That is confusing. I want to fix this. I don't like the way that this works quite yet. And that mainly it's because we're doing muscle simulation, you always need a start frame, like a T-pose frame. There's going to be problems no matter what with how you want to kind of wrangle your pre-roll. But basically, the rig match pose is getting us into the right space, setting up your match deltas, and then the match pose is actually just kind of changing the shape of it, right? So matching the rig match pose to the skeleton automatically, and then the full body IK is actually going to match it to the animation. So there's a slight difference right here that you can see, and if we turn this off, you can see, okay, it didn't do the scene transform. It doesn't matter too much. It's very close. There are some other techniques that you can look at the other old videos for. But basically, we're skeleton solving the high-res skeleton, and then you can see our animation is now applied to our character. So we've got that. Now I want to go back and just, before we move on, get this working, because I've talked to a lot of people and they've had a lot of trouble understanding what the whole point of doing all this is, right? Obviously it's for multiple characters, but it doesn't really work for them. So I'm going to revert to defaults, and it's going to break everything. You're going to be like, no, oh my God. Doesn't matter. We're going to go to our Anim export node, and then with the out clip here, automate network here, the bug still being here, this is how we're going to get our character animation back. The only thing I need you to do here is pay attention to the motion clip path. This is going to get fixed. Just make sure it's to your out clip node. So this one right here, the null. It's probably going to be a way around this, but we'll sort it out later. Basically, we're using tops to do a lot of this stuff. And the problem you will experience is, like, if you just try to export, like press save right here, because it's 0, you just have to remove those and set it to 1, basically, because there's no animation 0 here. There's no character 0 here. It's character 1 and onwards from that. There's no character 0. So going back into your automate network, you can press Shift and G or right click and go cook node, and then click the little green dot, and you'll bring your character back with the animation. I know the reason for this is just so, yeah, you get a second character, let's do, where's Tommy? Yep. Geo, Tommy. God, I hope it's this one. And then Tommy. I think it's cache, not output. Was it that? Let's go double check. And I'm going to turn this on to manual just for one moment. Let's just grab it from here. Oh, it is output. Perfect. So turn the back on. Now, we've still only got one character loaded, but if we press Shift D to dirty this node, and then Shift G, you'll see, wow, we got our character back. And then, wow, we've got Tommy there too. Beautiful work, right? Anyway, the main thing is getting that character in there and making them available to that. Actually, you know what? Boom, don't enable Tommy. We've only got Mr. Big Man. And then it's going to ask you to save. If you press, try to cook the geometry, and it's going to save out your animation. Now you'll notice a few things. It's set to single frame. This is because we're saving out a motion clip. I've looked at different ways to just kind of pass data back and forth between the different aspects of the node and the tool set. The main thing is that motion clips seem to be the best option for maintaining your frames per second. So if you're running at 60, you want to have a sim that goes at 60 frames a second. I mean, you have to change Houdini to work in 60 frames a second, but you can. It doesn't matter if you save it at a different rate because it's not being forced to save at that rate. You can actually override that and match, whatever. So I've saved it out probably at 24 frames per second, but you can force match to 30 frames as the source, or set a target of 60 or something like that, right? So should set that. Oh, found a bug. There we go. Anyway, beautiful. So we've got our character's animation output now. You can see the motion clip if you do if you select the out clip and view it, and just run through that. Just side tangent. Let's evaluate our motion clip, and you can see how it just goes through the whole thing, right? There's a lot of cool tools in Houdini to work with motion clips. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention was the importance of configuring joints, and this is something we may integrate into our system, but it's something that Houdini does natively. You can put down a configure joints node for your PA anim after your PA anim import coming out of the first side here, going into your rig match pose. So the configure joints node is all about managing your full body IK. It's really about limiting and just doing different kind of multipliers on the rotations and things like that. So you can see these are the ones that I've chosen to do here on the configure joints node. We're doing both clavicles by putting in a question mark for left and right. It'll pick up both of those, and spine 17, and I'll show you the differences here actually. The main thing is let's visualize both skeletons, the animation and the full body IK version. And we go down to oppose. Let's go down to something like this. Now, you can see that I turned this off and yet things have happened, but what is actually happening, right? So the only ones I modified here are, these don't actually need to be on, that's just on by default, the rotation on spine 17 and the rotation on the clavicle. And it's a lot easier to see on the final result. But if we turn off, for instance, spine 17, you can see that the clavicles do not detach anymore, basically. So turn it back on and they're not detaching from their rest position. This is not a bug. This is just something that you have to do with full body IK. So it's something that would be beneficial to kind of like package together. But the other one, the clavicle motion, is just to kind of like reduce the amount of clavicle motion because it's just pretty extreme with the one side, and it's more so throughout the animation. We can make that a bit bigger. You can see just for rotating that down, and I've chosen Y because that one does it. You can actually put it to 0, and that's just no rotation. These ones, you can see it's based off of your, oops, let's do this one instead. And if you create a transform one, so you can see the transforms, and go in here and turn off this one. I've just created a marker with this axis called transform and set it really small. But basically what we're doing here is based off the rotation, the Y rotation of these clavicles. We're not doing any kind of motion with that. And you can set these to be back. So Z will do very little as well too. X is doing very little, but we can take the full amount then. And play around with it, see what kind of feels good for your character, and bring it back here. It's easiest to see the results, see it on the result character. One last thing that I neglected to mention is the option of working with configurations on the full body AK node. I'm just going to go in here and turn on our local variables. So we have our animation and everything working. And this is great. Everything's animating as expected, but you can see the feet are floating a lot. Now, if we want to fix that, that's going to be with these configurations. You can basically go in and just choose which one you want. And in this case, I'll get the left ankle. I'm just going to put a question mark in there so I grab both the ankles. And then we can try out a few different ways of doing this. The main one is you have to set a higher priority for it. So going ahead and setting a priority that's higher than 0 will focus the solve, the FBIK solve, to place the feet on the ground properly, matching the input animation we have. Remember that the transfer is going from a different size character to a different size character, so not perfect. It's hard to match absolutely everything nicely, but it's doing its best job it can right now. There's probably some other ways to do this, but maybe I'm just unaware or something like that. But this seems like the best one so far. You can set it to position, but you can see the feet start to rotate a lot, but position and orientation tend to be pretty good. Now, that's as much as you kind of need to do, but you can do more iterations and see if that helps as well. And we can also see the clavicles are moving forward here. So maybe turning off blend clavicle will be a better option here. And yeah, that's it. The next bit is the CFX rig. And anatomy rig, place that down. And cliffhanger, I'm going to pause the recording right here.